What's up, everybody? Welcome back or to the channel. So today it has finally arrived. So today we're going to be installing the 2-inch high lifter lift kit on my 2019 Kawasaki Brute Force 750. Now again, this ATV runs great already, but I am looking to gain a little more ground clearance, and then eventually I am going to upgrade the size of my wheels and tires. Now I'm not going to go crazy with the wheels and tires, but I'd like to go to at least a 27 or maybe a 28. Now I know 27s you can fit on stock height, but I wanted to get a little bit more ground clearance, but I just don't want to go too big on wheels and tires. Now, as recommended by High Lifter, I also got the High Lifter 1-inch spacers because I am running stock tires. So if you happen to be putting one of these lift kits on your Brute Force and you have stock tires, you're going to want to get the 1-inch spacers. Because if you go a little higher on your lift, you probably want to counterbalance that by going a little wider on your tires. Pretty much what I do on my lifted truck over here. When you go bigger on the lift, you got to go wider and a little bigger on the tires so that you have better stability. Same thing applies to your ATVs. Now, if you happen to go with an aftermarket rim that has a little bit more of a deeper offset where more rim is outside the wheel well, that'll work too. But because I only have the stock rims and tires right now, I needed the 1-inch spacers. And who knows, even when I get the new rims and tires, maybe later this summer, I'll probably still keep the spacers just to keep a wider stance. So without further ado, enough talking, let's jump in and let's get this project started. Okay, so before we start getting into anything, let's first take a few measurements just so that we know where we are with the stock height. So let's go ahead and take our first quick measurement. We're gonna do it from the floor to the bottom of right here, okay? So if we do that, let's see where that's at. So as you can see here, I'm getting what? About 22 3/4, roughly. So remember 22 3/4. Let's go to the back. Now the back usually stands a little bit higher, but let's try to do it, let's say, well, let's just do it to this bar right here, okay? So we're gonna go right to the bottom of this bar. Maybe that'll be a little easier. Okay, so if I do it from the ground to the bar, we're right at about 23, okay? So that gives us a general guideline of where we are starting, because I'm hoping that after we get the 2-inch lift kit on the front and back, those measurements are going to be a little higher. Now let's take one quick final measurement here from the ground to the bottom of the wheel well. And as you can see here, we're right about 12 1/4, somewhere around that ballpark. So again, I just wanted to show you where the stance is currently. Now I am running these 25 by 8 by 12 tires in the front, 25 by 10 12 in the back. So they're basically 25-inch tires all the way around, just for some of you that want to know the tire size so that you have something to measure against your machine. Let's go ahead, jack up the front. I got the safety brake on already. We're gonna jack up the front and we're gonna start taking off our wheels, and then we're gonna start jumping into this lift kit. So let me jump into that and I'll be right back. Okay, so I went ahead and I actually had the spacers on the other day because they came in first, but because the lift kit just came in today, I took my spacers back off so that I can show you how the spacers work, how easy they are to put on, and we'll go ahead and put those back on once the lift kit is installed. Now, over to the lift kit. Okay, so we went ahead and got everything opened up. Let me get this packaging tape out of the way. All right, so this looks like here, this is probably your front bracket. This is probably your back bracket. And then you got some spacers. You got your lift brackets here, front and back. All right, and you got your bolts and your hardware and a couple stickers and some installations. So this should be fairly simple. Typically what's gonna happen is on the front, you're going to be mounting these brackets, okay, like so. This is gonna go in the front, that's going to go in the back. We have our bolts and spacers here. So let's go ahead and figure this out. It should be fairly simple. Come over here, I think what's gonna happen is we're gonna have to unbolt the top of the shock, and then that front bracket bar is gonna go right across, probably assume the front. We're gonna have to watch out, there's a wire up here. So let me go ahead and take a closer look at that and we'll be right back. Okay, so we're back here and I have everything separated. I have the couple pieces in the back, which we'll get to later there. I have my front lift bracket here. So now that I have everything separated here for the front, we're not gonna need some of this stuff. That's gonna be for the back. But for the front, we need this long piece. We need 2 back brackets, 2 sleeves. We're gonna need currently, I believe, 2 bolts for now. We're gonna need the washers in a minute when we hook the shock back up, and then we're gonna need 2 of these lock nuts for now. Okay, so now that we're under the bike, now here's what you're gonna need. Now, I've already taken my front shock off, okay? Just have it sitting here like this. Now, up in the front here, there is gonna be a wire, but make sure this wire up here, I don't know if you see my finger touching it, just make sure that's out of the way. You want that front bracket to go behind this wire I'm jiggling in the background. So you're gonna slide it right along the front of this bar right here, and it should line up perfectly. Then what we're gonna do is put a sleeve in between, just like that. And then this bracket here will go on the back side, and then we'll put a bolt through the middle, which holds this bracket in place, and then we'll hook the shock up to the new brackets. I know that sounds a little bit confusing, but let me at least do one, and then I'll show you how it looks in a minute. Okay, so we are back, and this is what it's supposed to look like. So you're gonna have your bar that goes all the way across in the front. You're gonna have a bolt that goes through this piece here, and you wanna just line this piece up with the shape and whole lineup of this piece. Put a bolt from the back through the sleeve and put a lock nut on the end. And then what you're gonna do is get your shock lined up with the front holes. Now, a lot of times once you unhook the shock for the first time, it kind of decompresses a little bit. So what I like to do is just take a big screwdriver like this and just put it up here like that, and just put it on top and then just press down, and it creates a little bit of leverage to compress the spring enough to line this bolt up. So what you want to do is take a bolt from the outside this way, put a washer on the inside, the bolt goes through the shock, put a washer on the other side of the shock, and then put your nut on the end. Once you have it like that, we're gonna tighten everything down. Then we'll go ahead, we'll slap our spacers on, put our wheels back on, and then we'll be done with the front. So let me finish this up, and then we'll start the spacers. Okay, so we got the front lift kit on. Everything looks real good. Everything's nice and tight. It looks the exact same way on the other side. So now we're pretty much done with the front. We just gotta put our wheel spacers on and we'll be good. Now with the wheel spacers, again, when you get them like this, they're just gonna come from the factory. Again, I put these on last week, but again, I took them off for this video just to show you how to put them back on. So what you're gonna do, okay, so they're just gonna come with regular bolts like this. So what we're gonna do is take them off, okay? Just like that. Then you're just gonna take your spacer and slide it on your hub assembly like that. Now, as you can see, they're a universal fit. So you see how there's a little bit of wiggle room like that. So what you wanna do is just try to center it the best you can, like that. I mean, you don't want it cockeyed like that. Just try to center it the best you can. And then when you stick these lug nuts in here, see how they're kind of tapered? They kind of go in and they kind of help center everything. Now, what I would definitely recommend is get an idea where the nut is gonna be, which is gonna be back further in the threads. Put some blue Loctite in here and get them threaded on. Now from the owner's manual, it recommends 56 foot-pounds of torque, so that's what we're gonna do. So I have a torque wrench here. I just have it set to 56 foot-pounds of torque, and we'll go ahead and pop them on. So let me go ahead and do that, and we'll be right back. Okay, so we got the driver's side front done. The 1-inch spacer is on. The lift kit is installed. Let's go over to the passenger side. 1-inch spacer is on. These are the high lifter spacers here, and the lift kit is on as it should be. Okay, that's what you want it to look like. All right, now again, when you're torquing this down to 56 foot-pounds of torque, keep in mind, if it's still jacked up, these wheels are gonna spin. So you're gonna wanna make sure you're doing this by holding in your front brake like this, and then reach over with your torque wrench and get those torqued down. Or if you have a buddy, have your buddy hold the front brake lever in and then torque it down. That way it's not spinning. So again, I put some blue Loctite on the 4 lugs that are holding the spacer to the hub there. So we're good to go with that. Now all I gotta do is mount my front tires back on, get them torqued down, and we'll be good to go. Once we're done with that, we'll drop the jack, come back here, and we'll start the back. So let me do that, and we'll be right back. Okay, so the front is completely done. Now, after I got everything tightened up and torqued down and blue Loctited and good to go, got my tires on, everything's good to go, I did go back under and I tightened up my coil spring to its highest setting because I like a little bit more of a stiffer shock because of my weight and size. Again, you can adjust your shocks to either loosen the suspension or tighten the suspension based on your body weight and what type of riding you do. But because of my body weight at about 270 and because I'm a little bit rough, I like to have a little bit of stiffness in my suspension. Now keep in mind, that does not mean this thing doesn't compress and body roll a little bit. It still does, but I wanted to kind of tighten it up a little bit because of my riding style. So I just wanted to make that quick comment. Okay, so now that we're on to the back, I have the back of the ATV jacked up. Again, I already have my wheel spacers on from the last time, but again, I showed you how to do one, so they're all the same exact way, very easy. Now, back to the lift kit. So as far as the lift kit goes here, it's very simple. What we're gonna do is we're gonna unbolt the top of both shocks first. Now, I already have my shocks loosened up to their easiest compression, so that helps when doing this. But we're gonna go ahead and remove the bolt from the top and take our coils off. Once we get to that point, we'll put our brackets on. Once we do that, we'll go to the next step. So be back here in a second. Okay, so we got the main bracket put on. So the outside bracket's gonna go right up under this ledge here and line up with your factory bolt location for your shocks. Then you're just gonna go ahead and slide a bolt through with a sleeve and then go through one of those brackets on the back. Just line up the bracket with the holes on the front of this bracket and then put a bolt on the back side. Now I tightened it down, but not fully tight yet because sometimes you need to make some slight adjustments to these brackets just to make things fit. Then what we're gonna need to do is get our shocks put back into this location the same way that we did with the front. You're gonna put a bolt through the front and then you're gonna use a washer on the inside going through the bolt before it goes through your shock. The bolt will go out the back side of the shock, put a washer on, then it'll go through the back side of the bracket and then put your nut on. So let me go ahead and do that and then we'll be right back. Okay, so we went ahead and got the shock on. Now again, I'm on the passenger side rear. So I just wanted to show you what it looks like, okay? So you're gonna put a bolt through the back, put a washer through your shock, then a washer through the back bracket, put your bolt on. There's no washers going through up here. At the top, you're just doing a bolt through a sleeve through the bracket, then your lock nut on the back. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that tightened up and then do the other side. The other side is the same exact way. It might be a little bit awkward and tight to get to because your muffler might be in the way, but you can figure it out. It's pretty simple and easy, just take your time. Once we get all this done and tightened up, then we'll start working on our sway bar bracket extensions next. Okay, so we just got done on the left side of the rear and it's gonna look like that. So where the shock goes, again, let me find my hand here, there it goes. So on the shock side, you're gonna have a bolt, a washer, the bolt goes through the shock, another washer, the bolt goes through the back plate, lock nut. Tighten it all down, you're good to go. That's basically what it's gonna look like from the back. So now that we got all that done, we just gotta do our sway bar drop brackets there. And that should be pretty simple. We're just gonna have to unbolt these two bolts here. There's a bolt here and a bolt on the other side. Do it on the other side of the ATV. This will drop down. You're gonna put your spacer right in there, like this. So that'll basically bracket up in there just like that, because the bolts are gonna go through there and bolt back up into place, just like that. And then this will bolt back to that. So let me go get that loosened up first. And you're gonna be using all the new hardware, so you don't have to use any of the old hardware. So let me do that, and by doing this, by dropping that sway bar, that'll actually help with the geometry of this ATV because we are lifting it 2 inches. No different than when you're doing a lifted truck, you have to correct the geometry by fixing everything else. So this kit comes with that. But again, this is what I just wanted to mention when you're comparing a higher quality, high lifter brand 2-inch lift kit to say something that's half the cost on eBay. Keep in mind, those eBay knockoff versions might not line up 100%. They might not, it just depends. That's number one thing you gotta worry about. Number two, is it gonna come with as good of a bracket or not? So you gotta look at the quality of the metal and the craftsmanship, that's number two. Number three, is it gonna come with the bolts? And are the bolts gonna fit? Number 4, is it going to come with the drop brackets for your sway bar? These are all the things you got to pay attention to. And I'm sure when you're buying a cheaper knockoff version, they might have that stuff, but the question is, will it line up and will it last? That's the gamble you're going to have to pay. Sometimes I buy eBay knockoff stuff and it works out perfectly fine. And sometimes I buy eBay knockoff stuff and it doesn't line up perfectly. Just like on my bike over here, when I bought these eBay crash bars, they didn't quite line up, but I had to do a little pushing, a little pulling, and I eventually got them lined up, but they weren't a perfect fit, so I had to do a little bit of maneuvering to get them to fit. But on this high lifter lift kit, so far, everything has been a breeze, everything lined up, and I'm really happy so far. So let me continue on. We'll get those brackets taken off and we'll get this finished up. Okay, so I went ahead and I took the factory bolts out of the bracket up here that mounts to the frame. Took those out, set them aside, we're not gonna need them. Then you're gonna wanna go ahead and set up your new drop block, right, just like that, with the holes facing vertically up and down. Now you might have to kind of pull on your sway bar a little bit here. These end links here will kind of move around a little bit, so just pull it into place. And then once you do, you're gonna go ahead and use your supplied bolt with a washer, drive them up in there, tighten it down, you'll be good to go. So let me go finish that and we'll be right back. Okay, everybody, we are finally done. We went ahead and got those drop brackets put on. Pretty easy, everything lined up pretty good, so nothing too hard there. Overall, this high lifter lift kit was fairly easy. I mean, it really is. Everything lines up pretty good. Again, there was no issues. Everything lined up, all the bolts lined up, all the bolts fit, all the nuts fit. Everything just honestly went pretty good on this kit. So no complaints, everything's done. So I'm gonna go ahead and just double check and make sure my torque specs on the spacers are still good on the back. Put on the back wheels, torque down the lug nuts, and we'll see how this thing looks. So let me finish that up and we'll be right back. Okay, we are done. So we got the entire 2-inch lift kit installed. Everything looks awesome. Now I definitely will be getting a little bit bigger tires, probably going with 27s or 28s, but I just wanted to get this lift kit on now, and I do have the 1-inch spacers. So again, the stance looks awesome. So much more ground clearance now. It looks bigger, it feels bigger. Now let's go ahead and compare our measurements. Now remember, earlier before we did the lift kit, we were about 22 3/4 to the bottom of this lip right here. So let's go ahead and try it again. Okay. Now we are sitting at about 24 3/4, almost 25. So that's good. Let's go check the back. So I think we were about 23 inches to this bar here, right to the bottom. So let's check that. Okay. Get on the floor here. And we're right about 26. So it seems like we got almost 3 inches of lift on here. I don't know how that happened, but maybe it's because I did adjust my shocks. Now I adjusted my shocks all the way around to their tightest settings, so that might have gave us another 1/4 or 1/2 inch as well. Let's check our floor. Before we were about 12 inches. Now we're at almost 15. So that 2-inch lift kit and tightening up my coils gave me about 2 3/4, almost 3 inches of lift on my Brute Force. So again, everything turned out great. Again, the sway bar drop brackets worked out great. The back looks pretty awesome. I like how it's cut out and says high lifter. That's pretty cool there. Let's go ahead and take this thing for a quick spin around the yard and see how it feels. Okay, so I got my camera mounted to the handlebar here. Let's go ahead. Try this out. Height feels great. These are just some trails I cut out behind my house. Still working on it because it's just nothing but overgrown woods and poison ivy and junk. But we're working on it. So far, this feels great. I like to come up here and go through the mud and hit some jumps. I usually jump off right here. I don't want to jump right now and have my camera go flying. But who knows, maybe we'll try it anyways. Let me just make sure my camera's mounted pretty tight. All right, feels pretty good. All right, let's try it. Try a jump. Oh, that was nice. All right, let's head back. Actually, let me try this one before we head back. Let me try this rut right here, because I have this rut right here that's really hard to get over. But let's try it with the new lift kit. Oh, look at that big hump. Oh, that was good. All right, so that worked out good. So yeah, the ground clearance is awesome. So far, so good. I'm really happy. I'm gonna get my grease gun and grease up some of these fittings and spray a little WD. I got a couple squeaks happening. All right, we're back home. Okay, everybody, we got back, and I gotta say, I really like this new 2-inch lift kit from Highlifter. It makes my ATV feel so much better. I have so much more ground clearance. I feel like I could get over the humps and bumps and logs a lot easier. Again, it just feels so tight and good now. And then tightening up those coils helps a lot too, so I'm not bouncing around so much and have so much rollover when I'm cutting the corners. But so far, it feels awesome, it looks awesome, and I am totally excited. So again, the installation was very simple and easy. Again, this 2-inch lift kit is around $150. I actually got it off Amazon. I'll put a link in the description. The main reason I got it off Amazon and not from Highlifter directly is because I already had some Amazon credit money already in my account. But I just went ahead and used that instead of using money out of my pocket to go to Highlifter's website and buy it there. But you could buy it either way, but I'll put a link in the description for Amazon where I got it, and then you can pick one up for yourself. But so far, I really dig this new lift kit. It's awesome. It was easy to install. The quality was awesome. And again, I am just really happy. So my overall impressions of the Highlifter 2-inch lift kit for the 2019 Brute Force 750, I give it a definite thumbs up. It's a definite go for me. I'm really happy about it. So that's it for today's video. I hope it helps some of you out. Do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button, like this video. If you have any questions, put them in the comment section and I'll get back to you as soon as I possibly can. And also do me a favor, subscribe to the channel because it definitely helps me out and I greatly appreciate it. So that's it for today's video. If you're interested in more ATV content, make sure you subscribe to my channel because there'll be more to come. But that's it. I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you. I truly appreciate you all. And as always, see you in the next video.